One of the other topics we went over during the first couple hours of the show was Broncos offseason thus far. Not that we necessarily ready to put a grade on it, but they've made 3 big free agent moves. They've filled some holes. If they don't do anything else between now, anything substantial between now and the draft, do you think they've done? You think they've done enough to position themselves where they can fill the rest of the holes in late April, or do you still think there's some things that need to be done here in free agency?
No, I think what they've done is they've done a solid job of going after and addressing what they thought their needs were. And we've talked about this a bunch, having a dynamic middle of the field kind of football players, right? Both at the safety position and at the linebacker position. And they filled both of those needs. Now, with guys who've had some injury issues, but guys that are still young, I think I think the safety Ufunga is 25, and I think Greenlaw is 27. And they're both unbelievable difference makers. Greenlaw is a guy, there's not very many guys that intimidate in today's game, but Greenlaw is one of those dudes. Like snap to whistle, hit you in the mouth, create a fight. Like he is one of those guys. And when he is on his game, man, he's as good as just about anybody in the league. And he played next to a guy in Fred Warner in San Francisco that we get so much, like he gets so much praise, and rightfully so, because the guy is great. But Greenlaw is right there with him. So Greenlaw and Hufanga, unbelievable additions to the middle of the strength of the middle of that defense. I think they're great additions. And then ultimately, Sean Payton has talked about needing a joker. Sean Payton's talked about needing a tight end or a running back who's a difference maker in the passing game, who's a matchup nightmare. And you got that in Evan Ingram. So, again, if those all pan out the way I think they could pan out, I mean, that's a home run in free agency. It's an A+ in free agency.
Yeah, and I think now you look at what's next. Obviously, we've talked a lot about those guys and what they can provide this year, but what's going to be next before the draft? Is it going to be a receiver? Is it going to be a running back? And when does it happen? So, but you want to get out early in free agency. This is where you get your top guys, and now you can sit back, take a deep breath, and kind of get some bargains out there. And I think that's what they're going to do. But a great start to free agency for the Broncos.
It is a great start. And Jeff Legwold had his piece, kind of almost the state of the Broncos that was up at ESPN.com of, hey, who's arrived, who's departed, and then what's the biggest remaining roster question. He lists running back. I think it's one of two things. I think it's either running back or who's your number 2 receiver. I think that they've put themselves, though, by signing Evan Ingram, they've put themselves in a spot where they don't have to reach in the draft. They don't have to sit there and hope that Warren or Loveland falls, or you got to trade up to get one of those guys, or you settle for the third best tight end on the board at 20. Now they've put themselves in a spot where they don't have to do that. I feel like if they don't at least try to address running back, fellas, in free agency, and running backs have signed for not a ton of money, if they don't bring in somebody, do they just put themselves in a spot where, hey, when number 20 rolls around, Genty's off the board, maybe Hampton's off the board, but you feel like you have to reach for a running back? I think addressing that in free agency, at least to some extent, so you have a known commodity other than Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime, I think that's the one remaining thing, that and a punter. I think that's the one remaining thing they have to do in free agency.
Yeah, I think, I would say the running back position, to me, I would like to have a veteran guy, a guy that is proficient in third downs, picking up blitzes, doing all those things. I'd like to have a dude in that position so you're not trying to fill your running back room with nothing but the rookies and draft choices. So that, to me, would be a kind of a thing I think that the Broncos should and need to address.
Yeah, I mean, you look at veteran. Give me a veteran one. I want a veteran running back right now, whoever it may be, to add to the room. Because you look at the room right now, and who's the vet that we have? I mean,
none. I mean, you got
right. Jalil, you got Estime, you got
Blake Watson,
so
Tyler Bidet.
Yeah, you got nothing but really young guys there. So you need to add to the room with a veteran guy, and then in the draft, you can pick one wherever. I really don't care. If you love a guy there in the first round at 20, fine. Amari
Amari and Hampton out of North Carolina.
Yeah, if he's there, great. Genty's there. Or if you wanted to move up a few spots to get Genty, you think he's the next Marshall Faulk, that's fine. If you want to wait, you're going to find there's going to be great running backs all throughout the draft. You just got to find one. So, but you need to add a veteran guy to the group before the draft.
More important, Stink, to add a veteran running back before the draft or a veteran receiver, so you've got somebody opposite Cortland Sutton that's a known commodity. I think we all like some of their young receivers, but we're projecting with Mims and Vele. They don't have a known commodity. So of the two, a veteran running back or a veteran receiver, just so you feel a little bit more comfortable and don't have to reach on draft day.
I would go with the veteran running back. I think that's more imperative and more important, and part of the thing that, when we talked about the Broncos last year, it was the running game that we continue to focus on, how the running game has let them down, how that needs to improve, how they have to get better there. It wasn't, wow, all these young receivers are really killing us right now. And by the way, they did address the receivers by getting Ingram, because Ingram is not your inline tight end blocking guys. Ingram is a pass-catching dude who caught at one point a couple of years ago, I think, 114 balls. So I may be mistaken on that, but I think he was over 100 receptions 2 years ago.
Yes.
So he's a guy that can catch it. He's a guy that can match up in the slot, outside the numbers, at the Y. So I think they have addressed that kind of quote unquote number 2 receiving threat, if you will. Just doesn't have to play wide receiver.
Yeah, so, okay, just to make sure we're all on the record here, I'm looking at this free agent board. Boy, that is a color-coded – that is a nice art project. Is that a Richie Carney production? Because he is arts and crafts guy. Number 4 for Stoke, J.K. Dobbins. Number 4 for Mike, Keenan Allen. Looks like all of your guys are signed, Stink. So if that choice, Keenan Allen – J.K. Dobbins, you both are taking J.K. Dobbins. That's what you would go sign. That's who you'd go sign first.
100%.
Yeah, I would. I like Keenan Allen though. I think he could add something to that wide receiver room, and so I wouldn't be opposed to adding a guy like Keenan Allen. Certainly, he can play inside, he can play outside. He's also a veteran presence in that room with a lot of young guys.
They got money to burn. Is it greedy to say why not do both?
Yeah, no. No, it's not greedy.
Like, go do both.
Right. Why
Especially
not?
for what running backs are signing for. Like,
I'm with you.
1 year, $3 million deal. You see that all over the place. Dobbins, from an NFL standpoint, that's super cheap. I think I think the answer is all of the above. All right, want to see the most popular horse race in the country? It's the Fan Flyaway presented by Embers Golf and 303 Law 4040. Gary Romero, you have 10 minutes to call us back at 303-713-1043.